Hey guys, I'm King Sway, and welcome to Tales of Adventure. Today, we have a tale of love lost and sadness as a misunderstanding leads to an incredible tragedy in the realms of Skyrim. Yeah, we're doing one for Skyrim and not Dungeons and Dragons today, but it's all fantasy stuff, so I clump it all together. Anyway, roll post. My name is Caleb Shadowfang. I'm a Red Guard that has lived in Skyrim almost my entire life. My family are traveling mercenaries with ties to Whiterun. It is said that our lineage can be traced back to Ysgramor and the original 300. I don't know how true that is, but I know that my family and the inner circle of the companions today do have something very special in common. My family made frequent trips to Whiterun. On such visits, my life changed forever. I was 15 at the time, and while some may laugh, others can understand why I made the decision I did. I had met a girl, a red guard like myself. I began to court her, and she seemed gleefully to return my feelings. I was still traveling at the time and going on missions. Each time I returned, I did so with a gift from whatever place I had traveled to. I saved my money from these missions I went on and used it to buy a home. I decided to stay in Whiterun, and by the age of 17, I applied to be a guard. My skills were put into question because of my age, but those questions were quickly put aside when I defeated 3 guards in single combat, and then 3 more in a 3-on-1 challenge. My combat style was a bit unconventional, as they fought with sword and shield, while I fought wielding 2 swords. My love started taking interest in alchemy, so I began to pay for her to have lessons from the local apothecary, while I went about my duties as a guard. While I performed my duties for the day as a guard, Elvira spent her time learning alchemy or helping at one of the local farms. We saved up to attempt to open our own shop, but we put those plans on hold as Avara swelled with children. We soon discovered it was not just one child, it was 2, and she would be giving birth to twins, a boy named Callan and a girl named Kalara. I kept my post as a guard, working up the ranks. 5 years pass, and my age jumps from 20 to 25. The children are 5, and they are gorgeous. Callan takes after me and wanted to know how to fight. Kalara takes after her mother, with her love for herbs and alchemy. I get Callan his first wooden sword, and Kalara a few harmless potions, just to watch them play. The way their eyes and their faces light up as they receive their gifts melts what heart I have. I love seeing it, and it brings me great pride and joy as a father. The true tragedy came one day while Ivara and the children were outside of the city, picking herbs and trying to help people on the farms, while also just picking up a few things for potions to brew. I was on the wall on duty when it all happened. I could see a strange carriage drive up to them, and then the screams came. The screams seemed to echo in my mind for what seemed like an eternity. I didn't bother taking the stairs. I just jumped down, and I ran from the wall. Elvar and the children were forced into the carriage, and all I know is I had to save them. I was faster than most, but I was attempting to catch a carriage drawn by 2 horses. I could see them. They called for me and reached out for me from the back of the carriage, through bars. The carriage was faster, pulling farther and farther away as I did my best, just trying to keep up with it. But my heart was breaking the further and further they strode. This form was too slow. I needed to catch them. I needed to save them. I started tearing at my clothes, and I ran. I felt the pain in my chest as my heart was the first thing to swell, my bones breaking and shifting all at once as I jumped into the air. My body shifted, and out of its human form, it turned into that of a werewolf. They were all shocked as they watched me shift. I caught up to the carriage with no problems at all, slaughtering the horses first. The carriage harness snapped with a butchering. The carriage wheels ran in the horses' lifeless bodies before the entire carriage tilted and then over on its side. The driver was on the ground, groaning as I stalked up to him on all fours. I was growling, and I was baring my fangs. Seeing me in such a form stole away whatever courage he had to begin with. The driver screamed and tried to run away. 3 heartbeats and I was on him. My claws tore through his chest and his rib cage like parchment as my fangs tore through his shoulder. He gave a gurgle scream before blood trapped in his throat and forever silenced his voice. The light of life left his eyes as he fell to his knees and then flat on his face as I licked the fresh, warm blood from my maw. I walked on 2 legs as I ventured closer to the carriage. I could hear everyone screaming, my family and their captors alike, as the only unobscured door to the carriage tore open. One of the captors was trying to climb out. His heart was pounding in his chest. I could hear it. The beat was almost strong enough and fast enough to dance to. The air stank with fear. It permeated off his body. He was halfway out of the carriage before he even realized how close I was. He took a look around, only to make eye contact with me. He tried to scream in terror, but one swipe from my claw, and it removed his head completely from his shoulders. I flung his lifeless body away from the carriage with one hand. A low growl escaped me as I peered through the portal. The last capture slit of his own throat, stealing away the joy of my kill in an effort to avoid my fangs and my fury. Elvar and the children looked at me in fear. To see me with those gazes, it brought forth an unbearable pain that I could not put into words. My heart sank. It felt like every fiber of my being was being torn apart as they looked at me with fear. I shifted back into being a man. There was a long period of silence between us as all before Elvar grabbed Kellen and handed him up to me. My heart sank into the pit of my stomach as I expected him to try and move away and begin to cry. Tears welled in my eyes as he reached out for me, and when I picked him up to pull him out of the carriage, he hugged me tightly. I returned his hug, not knowing what else to do. I just held him. I loved him, and I didn't know what else to say. I took Kellen and Kalara, settling then on the ground before helping Elvira free. It wasn't until the children started pointing at me and giggling that I realized I was still naked. I took what I could from the dead men and used it to clothe myself before I stood there in front of the 3 of them, uncertain how they'd react to me. They stood away from me, silent, the children clinging to their mother's legs. I felt a pang in my heart as something inside of me died. For the first time in my life, I honestly felt like a monster. All the times I had shifted, all the moons I had hunted, all the things I had killed, the prey, the joy of the hunt, the thrill, the exhilaration, the adrenaline. I had never felt like a monster. I had felt free. I felt like predator. Now, I truly felt like a monster. It made me ashamed. I turned to leave with my head hung low. I had only gotten a few steps before I felt something pulling on my leg. It was Callan, with his sister standing beside him. Without thinking, without hesitation, I brought them close and I held them tightly. I laughed as I choked back tears. Closing my eyes so that none of them could see just how close to crying I actually was. We walked back to Whiterun in silence, and that silence weighed heavily upon me. but we were together. It just seemed like the walk had taken forever. When we got back to White Run, I reported what had happened. No one on the wall had seen me made the shift. I was too far out of eye strain for them to see what had happened. They knew I chased after the carriage, but that was all. The captain had given me time off to spend with my family, and for that, I was very grateful. My joy would be short-lived, though. In the night, the stony scent of blood, of copper, was unmistaken, and it was strong. It woke me up from my slumber. As I sat up in bed, Ilvar entered the room with a dagger that was dripping with blood. "What did you do?" I asked as I threw the covers away from me. Ilvar ran down the stairs, and I ran into the children's room. I dropped to my knees as all the strength left my body. For what I beheld was a horror like none that even I had committed. Kelly and Kalara lay in bed with their throats cut open, their beds stained red with their blood. I was enraged, and I ran after Elvira, but somehow she escaped the city. I waited until morning before burying my children and resigning my post as a guard. Now I hunt Elvira. I have her scent, and I will find her, no matter how long it takes. End post. That was one of the saddest stories I've heard in a while. Part 2 is coming soon, so stay tuned. Be sure to like and subscribe and share, as that's how my channel grows. I'm King Sway, and I'll catch you in the next one.